The armature of a two-pole 200 volt and wave-wound DC machine. Machine is the general word for generator and motor together. Same machine can be used as generator as well as the motor. So this machine has 400 conductors and it runs at 300 revolutions per minute. Calculate the machine flux per pole. It's a 200 volt machine, so the back EMF is 200 volt, EB. Last time we derived this equation, EB equal to phi Z and P divided by 60A. Phi is the flux per pole, capital Z is the total number of conductors, which is given as 400. Capital N is the RPM at which the rotor is rotating, which is 300 given to us. Number of poles is 2, that is also given. Okay. And it's a wave wound machine, so the number of parallel paths, capital A, will be 2. It's a straightforward application of the equation. So if you plug in all the values, the unknown is phi. 200 equal to 5 multiplied by 400 multiplied by 300 multiplied by 2 divided by 60 multiplied by 2. Solve it for phi at 0.1 Weber, which is 100 milliweber. Okay. One important thing to notice from practical point of view is that the terminal voltage of the generator will be reasonably close to back EMF for most practical situations. It will not be equal, but it will be close enough. So the voltage that you can obtain from a DC generator essentially depends on phi, Z, N, P, and A. Normally for a given machine, number of poles, number of conductors, and parallel paths are fixed. That means Z, P, and A are fixed. It is the phi and N which are under your control. Flux, you can always vary by changing the value of field current. And RPM is also going to depend because you can always change the speed of the turbine that is feeding the generator. So this is a very important finding from this equation that we'll be using several times in future when it comes to controlling performance of DC machines. Okay. That's why this equation assumes a lot of importance. Okay, problem 2. Again, same equation. Let's see what they're saying now. A 400 volt, 8 pole, 600 RPM DC machine has 100 slots. On the armature, there are 100 slots, and each slot has 40 conductors in it. So the total number of conductors is 4,000. Capital Z is now 4,000. The flux per pole, that is phi, is 0.01 Weber. Now, what type of winding is being used? That means you need to figure out the value of capital A. If it turns out to be 2, we have wave winding. If it turns out to be 8, that is number of poles, then it is lap winding. So plug in the values. Phi is 0.01, Z is 4,000, N is 600, P is 8, EB is given as 400 volt. Solve the equation, do the calculations, you get A equal to 8, which is P, number of poles. So it's a lap winding that is being used. Okay. Third one actually will need the equivalent circuit. By the way, in the exam, equivalent circuit will not be given to you. Based on the problem, you should be able to draw it yourself. It is reasonably straightforward. You show the armature as a circle two brushes on top and bottom, armature resistance in series with the armature, and then you connect the field winding based on what is given to you. Here they say 100 kilowatt. This number, by the way, 100 kilowatt number and 230 volt number will be mentioned on the nameplate of the generator. This generator is capable of delivering 100. This is DC case, so power factor is 1. Don't worry about imaginary power here. It's all real power. 100 kilowatt power is the rated output. 230 volt is the rated voltage. It's a shunt generator. So field winding has to be in parallel with the armature. That's what I have drawn in the diagram below. Okay. The generator has a total mechanical and core loss. Okay, they have given us loss also. Mechanical loss means friction plus windage. And iron loss or core loss has hysteresis loss, eddy current loss together. They have given us the total of all these losses as 1.8 kilowatt. Fine. On top of it, remember, there will be copper loss. IF square RF plus IA square RA. Then only you will get the total loss in the machine. If the generator operates at rated voltage, which is 230 volt, calculate the induced voltage. Induced voltage, induced EMF, back EMF, etc., no load voltage, these are various words which are used for EB. Okay. Unfortunately, I cannot help it. Depending on where you read, some different word will show up. This problem is saying induced voltage. I call it back EMF or induced EMF. So we have to infer from the language that what they mean is EB. And they want the efficiency also. That means output power, which is electrical power, divided by input power, which is rotary mechanical power. And they want that to be done at full load and half load, half full load. Full load means the current drawn. By the way, there are three symbols here. Capital I is the load current, capital V is the load voltage accordingly. IA is the armature current and IF is the field current. Obviously, IA will be I plus IF. Now, RA and RF are given to you. At full load, the value of I, the load current, will be 100 kilowatt divided by 230 volts. And at half load, it will be 50 kilowatt divided by 230 volt. That is how these two cases are different from each other. So let's continue. Oh yeah, these are descriptions of various symbols once again. In many books, you will find load voltage being called VL and load current being called IL. In fact, in many books, they call it terminal current and terminal voltage, VT and IT. Fine. I'm sticking to V and I, simple. Okay. Now the equations are reasonably simple. IA equal to IF plus I. I have already shown that several times. IF will be V divided by RF. That's second equation. And third equation, of course, is EB minus voltage drop across RA minus any voltage drop due to brushes. If it is given to you. If it's not given, ignore it. That will give you the load voltage. So these are the three governing equations for shunt wound DC generators. There's no need to memorize it. They are almost obvious. Now at full load, as I said, the current will be 100 kilowatt divided by 230 volt, which turns out to be 434.78 amperes, approximately. Now what do they want? Yeah, they want EB and efficiency at full load. Fine. First thing you do is calculate field current, which is V divided by RF. V is 230 volt. RF is given as 57.5 ohm. Let me double check. Yeah. So the ratio of the two gives you field current, which is 4 amperes. Field current and load current added together will give you armature current. That gives you 438.78 amperes approximately. Now back EMF is V plus IARA based on this equation. We have been given no information on brush effect, so ignore it. So EB is V plus IARA. IA is 438.78 amperes. RA is RA is generally very small compared to RF. RA is 0.05 ohm. So you plug in all the values, you get back EMF as 251.94 volt. Please double check all these calculations once you get the document. How about efficiency? Output power is 100 kilowatt, no issue about that. Let's calculate the total losses and add them to the output power to get the input power. And then take the ratio of output and input powers. So output power is 100 kilowatt, no issue about that. Copper loss is IA square RA plus IF square RF. IA square RA is copper loss in the armature winding. IF square RF is the copper loss in the field winding. I plug in the values. I know IA, I know IF, I know RA, I know IF, I know RF. Okay, so plug in all these values. The total copper loss turns out to be 10546.39 watt. Now to that, you add the core loss and mechanical loss, which is given to you, which is 1800 watt. And that gives you the total loss, which is around 12.346 kilowatt. So eta is very easy to figure out. P out is 100 kilowatt, P in is 100 kilowatt plus 12.34639 kilowatt. Take the ratio. It's almost 89% efficiency that we're getting. This is at full load. Now, same thing has to be done at half load. At half load, the output power will be half of the full load value, which is now 50 kilowatt. So the current will be half of what it was. The load current will be half of what it was in the previous case, 217.39 amperes. But field current will not change. It is still VF divided by RF. It will still be 4 amperes. So the armature current now would be 217 plus 217.39 plus 4 amperes, which is 221.39 amperes. So back EMF can be calculated using the same equation with new numbers. It turns out to be 241.07 volt in this case. Same machine has to produce slightly different back EMF based on the load conditions. So essentially, if phi is not changing, then RPM will keep changing a little bit. Again, you calculate the copper loss with the new values. In the field winding, current has not changed. So the IF square RF value would still be the same as it was in the full load case. But IA square RA value will now go down by a factor of 4. So you get the total loss in watts at 5.17 kilowatt. Output power is 50 kilowatt. So input power is 55.17 kilowatt. Take the ratio, multiply by 100 to get percentage value. At lower loads, efficiency improves slightly. It is now 90.63%. For full load, it was 89%. Okay. This is how you make the elementary calculations for a DC generator. By the way, a lot of this will be used for AC machines also. These fundas don't change just because you go to AC. Output power is still input power minus loss. efficiency definition is the same. Copper loss will be governed by the same equation. Only thing is there we'll be using RMS values for current. Here we don't care, it's all DC anyway. Okay, next one. Again, a shunt generator. RF is 60 ohm. When the generator delivers 6 kilowatt, that is output power, the load voltage, that is terminal voltage, is 120 volt, while the back EMF is 133 volt. Determine the armature resistance and the generated EMF, that is EB, when the output drops to 2 kilowatt and terminal voltage goes up to 135 volt. Fine. I'm not drawing the circuit again. The equivalent circuit is known to you from the previous problems. It's a matter of using it correctly. In A, EB is 133 volt, V is 120 volt, so IARA will be EB minus V. Brush drop is not given, so we assume it's not there. So IARA is 13 volt. The difference of 133 and 122 volts. Now IF is V divided by RF. V in part A is 120 volt and RF is 60 ohm. So IF is 2 amperes. And load current will be 6 kilowatt divided by 120 volt, which is 50 amperes. So sum up the load current and the field current to get the armature current. It turns out to be 52 amperes. Okay, and you know that the voltage drop across the armature resistance is 13 volt. So now just use Ohm's law to calculate the armature resistance. It turns out to be 0.25. It's basically manipulation of equations that you know in different manners based on what is given and what is being asked. In part B, the output has dropped to 2 kilowatt and terminal voltage has gone up to 135 volt. Okay. And you want to figure out EB. Okay. So now I will change to 2000 divided by 135, which is around 14.82 amperes. IF would also change because terminal voltage has changed to 135 volt. So now it becomes 2.25 amperes. Total of I and IF gives you IA around 17.07 amperes. And then you use the well-known equation to calculate EB. It turns out to be 139.27. Okay, next problem. In part B of previous problem, calculate the voltage regulation. That's very easy. In part B, back EMF has been calculated by us as 139.27 volt. So this will be the no load voltage because there will be no losses in the windings. 139.27 minus the full load voltage, which is given as 135 volt. And then the whole thing divided by full load voltage, which is 135 volt. Multiply the result by 100 to get percentage value. So voltage regulation turns out to be 3.16% approximately, which is good enough. Now, next problem says that in part B of problem 4, assuming that the armature speed, this is slightly different, read it carefully. In part B of problem 4, assuming that the armature speed is 600 RPM, okay, that's capital N, calculate the efficiency. Ignore core losses and windage plus friction losses. Also calculate the input torque being supplied by the turbine. How much torque the turbine is supplying to the DC generator. That's the question. That's the second question at least. First of all, calculate the efficiency. That should be easy enough. There are no core losses, no mechanical losses. So copper loss is the only loss that matters. Again, we do calculations IA square RA plus IF square RF. Copper loss turns out to be 376.6 watt, which is the total loss. Output power in that case was 2000 watt. So input power will be 2000 watt plus 376.6 watt, which is 2376.6 watt. So take the ratio, you get efficiency of 84.15%. Not difficult at all. To calculate the torque, you look at the input power, which is 2376.6 watt, and divide it by omega to get the torque. And omega is 2 pi n by 60. N now is given as 600 RPM. So use this equation, 2 pi n divided by 60 to figure out omega. If my calculations are correct, omega is 20 pi radian per second. You take the input power and divide it by omega to get the input torque. I'm calling it machine torque, or you can call it whatever, you know. So the value, according to my calculations, turns out to be 37.83 Newton meter approximately. I'm sure you know the unit for torque very well. Another thing to remember is that sometimes the powers are not given in watts, they are given in horsepowers. 1 horsepower is almost 746 watts, I think. When we get to that point, we'll double check all that. Okay, next one. This is again straightforward application of this well-known equation. A 4-pole lap-wound DC generator has 600 conductors on its armature. The useful flux per pole is equal to 0.02 Weber. What do they mean by useful? What happens is some of the flux produced by the poles is leaked out from the machine because of a lot of practical reasons. There are openings in the construction despite your best effort. And there are metal parts all over, so flux links to those parts of the construction where it should not be linking. So some wastage is always there. Useful means after all the wastage has been accounted for, how much flux is actually going in the machine and producing the coupling to the rotating conductors. If you are given no information, then assume that wastage is 0. So phi is, actually I should have been calling it useful flux per pole rather than flux per pole, but fine. So phi is given as 0.02 Weber. They want you to figure out N when EB is 100 volt. No load voltage is EB always. Number of poles is 4. It's lap-wound machine, so capital A is equal to capital P. In lap-wound case, capital P and capital A cancel out, by the way. You don't need to know the number of poles, but they have given it to us anyway. Z is 600, so we plug in all the values. The answer is 500 RPM. This generator has to be run at 500 RPM if you want 100 volt output. If you want 300 volt output, obviously N will go up also by a factor of 3. It will become 1500. Look at the practical side. 1500 RPM is not easy to obtain unless you use gas turbines. Idle turbines do not give very high RPMs, 200, 300, 400, 500, etc. Wind turbines give even lower values of RPMs. Diesel generators give much better. Okay, so depending on what you are using as the input in the mechanical input to the generator, this can be a very serious issue, practically speaking. If we cannot afford very high value of N, we try to increase phi so that a required EB can be generated, even with lower N. All these equations have a lot of practical significance. Anyway, so now this is done. Next problem is this one. By the way, nuclear turbines are also there, but they essentially are gas turbines where the heat input comes from the nuclear reactions. So they are not that different from our point of view, at least. Okay, and there are other ways of generating rotary power. Tidal power is there. So, depending on what method you are using to feed the rotary input to the generator, capital N will be governed by that fact. Anyway, this problem says 100 kilowatt 250 volt DC shunt generator again with RA equal to 0.05 ohm, RF equal to 50 ohm. Generator operating at rated voltage, determine the induced EMF in the armature at full load. Now here the brush effect is given to you. That is the difference compared to previous problems. You will have to include 1 volt per brush, and by default you assume that there are 2 brushes. So the total drop in armature because of brushes will be 2 volt, which will be in addition to all the other drops. Diagram has been drawn once again as a reminder. Full load current obviously is full load output power divided by rated voltage, which is 400 amperes. Field current is V divided by RF. It turns out to be 5 amperes. So armature current is the total of these two currents, which is 405 amperes. Now calculation of EB has to be done a little bit carefully. It is not only V plus IARA, but to that you also have to add 2 volts, 1 volt per brush. So EB turns out to be 272.25 volts. If brushes were not dropping any voltage, then EB would have been 270.25 volts. At half load, repeat the story. Load current will be half of the full load current, which is now going to be 200 amperes. Field current will not change. So the total, sorry, I made a mistake. It should be IA here. Okay, make that correction. I'll correct it also. It is IA, which is 205 amperes. And EB calculation can be done, but the 2 volt will not change because that is depending on mechanical regions. It is mostly because of friction. That doesn't change with load. So 2 volt remains fixed, even at half load, at any load really, even at no load for that matter. So you do the calculation, you get the new back EMF, 262.25 volts. For the generator in problem 8, calculate the voltage regulation in both cases.
Hello.
Hello? Yes?
Sorry, sir, वो गलती से हो गया था.
Okay, fine, no problem. Thank you. Okay, so voltage regulation is pretty easy to figure out again. No load voltage minus full load voltage divided by full. I'm sure you are tired of this by now. So figure it out. It's 4.9%. At half load and at full load, it is 8.9%. Okay, this is the last one, I think. Repeat problems 8 and 9, assuming a series wound generator. Now we are going to something different. In series wound generator, RA and RF are in series with each other. It's a very different case. RF cannot be very high because that would kill the performance. So I am letting RF change to a smaller value here compared to previous problems. But RA is the same. I am letting RF to be only 0.2 ohm. And let's try to figure out how much back EMF would be necessary at full load. All the ratings are borrowed from previous problems. Okay. So current, the load current is 400 amperes. Now the drop would be, by the way, now there is no difference between armature current, field current, and load current. They are all the same. That's a very important feature to remember in series connection. And the drop between EB and V now will be I multiplied by RA plus RF. And I'm taking brush drop also into account, which is 2 volt. So including all that, now back EMF is quite large compared to output voltage. You need an output voltage of 250 volts, but you need to generate a back EMF of 352 volts in series connection. This is one example. Other values of RF and RA will give you different answers. Series connection is generally not preferred for DC generators, but I'm still discussing it for the sake of comparison. Okay. You can always do other calculations. At half load, of course, current will go down to 200 amperes, so EB will be going down a little bit. The new value is 302 volts. Okay. Voltage regulation, you can calculate again using well-known equations. One thing very important that you see is the voltage regulation is quite bad in series wound DC generators. It is 40.8%, 20.8%. That is unacceptable practically. More than 10% is generally a no-no for all practical situations. The conclusion is that DC generators with series wound construction are simply not going to be used. But DC motors with series wound connection between field and armature windings are very popular. E-rickshaws on Jaipur roads are all using them. Railway locomotives, electric locomotives are all using these series motors. There is a reason for it. We'll come to that when we go to motors. Okay, there are some more problems here. Collected from different sources. Conceptually, there is not much difference here. The numbers are different though. Yeah, okay. So I'll ignore this problem. You can go through it once you get the document. It's essentially the same. Yeah, this is the one. This is the compound wound case, which means part of the field winding is in series with the armature and part of the field winding is in parallel with the armature. There's a reason why this is called long shunt compound generator. First, you look at the statement. A long shunt compound DC generator delivers a load current of 50 amperes at 500 volt and armature resistance is 0.05 ohm, series field resistance is 0.03 ohm, and shunt field resistance is 250 ohm. Calculate the generated voltage, that is back EMF, and the armature current. Allow 1 volt per brush for the contact drop. Now, long shunt means this connection. What it means is part of the field winding has to be connected in series. If you do that first and then connect the remaining in parallel, that means the series part of the resistance RSC is the first one after RA and the parallel part RF is the second one. If that is the case, it is known as long shunt construction. If you interchange the position of RF and RSC, then it is called short shunt. I don't know why. Most likely what they mean is shunt is far away from the armature, but there may be some other reasons. Anyway, so long shunt means RF has to be directly across V. That is the way it is. Okay, so this is the circuit diagram, equivalent circuit diagram for long shunt compound machine. the flux produced by poles will be determined by current in RSE as well as current in RF. And RF, although we have been given a fixed value, in general RF can be a rheostat. We can keep changing its value to optimize the performance of the generator, depending on the load conditions, etc. That's why I'm showing a variable register there. In this particular case, it is not a variable. We are given a numerical value for it. Okay. So IF, that is the current through the shunt part of the field winding, is simply 500 divided by 250 amperes, which is 2 amperes. No issue with that. IA would be obviously load current plus IF, and load current is very easy to figure out. Yeah, it's 50 amperes given to us already. So add the two to get the armature current, which is now 52 amperes. EB now would be V plus IA into RSE plus 2 volts. Oh, sorry, plus IA into RA also. It's Kirchhoff's voltage law that you try to apply carefully. So this is the equation for EB in this case. Okay. That is back EMF value that we get, 506.16 volts. If brush drop were 0, you would have gotten 504.16 volt. Now in problem 2, oh, by the way, problems have been renumbered because this is a different document. So don't worry about it. Problem 2 is the previous problem. If we reduce RF to 100 ohm, that means instead of 250 ohm, if I make it 100 ohm, what would happen? Now, IF will be 500 divided by 100 ohm, which will be 5 amperes. IA, of course, I will be the same at 50 amperes. So IA would also go up to 55 amperes. New value of EB, you can again do the calculations. It turns out to be slightly different from what we got in the previous problem. But it's not very different. So as far as calculations go, it is a simple example, but there is a lot of practical implication here. What has happened is you have increased the value of IF by decreasing RF. So the flux produced will go up significantly. But EB requirement has not changed much. It is still 1 minute. Yeah, it is still 506.4 volt, while in the previous case it was 506.16 volt, almost the same. And EB is phi ZNP by 68, and phi has gone up because IF has increased by a factor of 2.5. So phi would be going up by almost the same factor. As a result, what would happen is, in this case, when RF has been reduced significantly, and EB is almost the same, N would go down because Z, P, and A will not change. They are fixed for a given machine. The machine would run at a lower speed if you play with RF values. If you reduce RF, the speed of the machine will go down. This is one way of controlling the speed requirement for maintaining the same EB. Compound wound machines give you a lot more flexibility. Okay. But anyway, as far as the calculations go, it's a very straightforward example. Now, short shunt compound DC generator there is a problem here. But before that, let me show you how the circuit looks like. Here, the parallel path comes first and series resistance comes in later. Equations become slightly more. First of all, read the problem. Equations are going to be used anyway soon. So here we have got short shunt compound DC generator. It is delivering 30 ampere at 220 volt. Armature resistance is 0.05 ohm. Series field resistance is 0.3 ohm. And shunt field resistance is 200 ohm. Induced EMF, EB requirement is there. We need to figure out EB. Brush drop has again been given as 1 volt per brush. So now you have to write the equations carefully. IF can be written as EB minus IARA minus 2. That will be the voltage across RF. So that divided by RF will give you IF. That's one equation. The other equation is, if you use KVL, you will see that V plus drop across RSC will give you the voltage across RF. So using that equation, using that fact, you write second equation. And on top of it, of course, you can get more equations like IA equal to IF plus I. And if you equate equation 1 and 2, because left side is the same, you get equation 3. Okay. Now, one important thing to remember here is that I is known to you. It is 30 amperes. And RSC is also known to you as 0.3 ohm. So multiply the two, you get drop I RSC directly, which is what I've done here. Once you do that, equations are easy to apply because IRSC is known, V is known, RF is known, so IF is easy to figure out. It turns out to be 1.145 amperes. Then EB is easy to figure out from this equation. Of course, you need IA before that, so that can be calculated also. So EB value in this case turns out to be 232.56 volts. Calculations are simple, they are not that difficult. Okay, I think I'll stop here today. Next time I'll finish this document.